This is the Deaflympics, a global multi-sport event for the world's elite-level deaf athletes. It began in Paris in 1924 as the International Silent Games, with just 9 countries in the mix. Fast forward to today, and the competition brings together over 2,000 athletes from more than 70 nations. Now, I wasn't really sporty growing up. I was worried about communication. Last year, I took the plunge into cold water swimming, and I wish that I'd started sooner. But someone who found her stride way before I did is 18-year-old Evie. She is qualified for this year's Deaflympics event in Tokyo. So how long have you been running for?
I've been running for about 8 years. 10 years now I think. I've been running since I was 8.
Which competitions will you be participating in?
So I've currently qualified for the 1500 I think, the 800 and the 5000.
Wow, how are you feeling about that?
Definitely a bit nervous. I know it's a big competition, but I'm excited to go. I'm looking forward to it.
I understand you have some hearing and you have been involved in hearing competitions as well, and you've been involved in competitions with only deaf athletes. Can you tell me what it's like for you being in a hearing competition?
Yeah, I mean, I am profoundly deaf, so it is definitely a lot harder when you're on the start line and you don't know when the starting guns go and you're going off more like what other people are doing. It's a lot harder.
Many people's hearing threshold starts at around 0 decibels, often described as near total silence. But to compete in the Deaflympics, athletes must be unable to hear anything quieter than 55 decibels. To put that into context, that's about the same loudness as a normal conversation. That means deaf sports people who are unable to participate in normal conversation without hearing aids or cochlear implants and need a more visual method of communication can take part in competition. Chris Radcliffe is a Deaflympian and the CEO of UK Deaf Sport. Why do you think it's so important that deaf people have their own event?
Deaf children are twice as likely to be left behind compared to their hearing peers. And this is because of accessibility to communication, the barriers they face and isolation. They often feel nervous about being part of a group. This means deaf people lag behind hearing people when it comes to sport. So we know for a fact that if you're deaf, you're more likely not to be active compared to hearing people.
So at a hearing event, access can be challenging for a deaf athlete. Can you give me some examples?
For deaf events, for example in swimming, they'll have flashing lights on the start line. Same with the athletics. The starting gun will flash, there will be a light from the gun and on the starting block. In team sports, the referee will use a flag to attract attention, so there are adaptations made to ensure that the access is visual.
So deaf athletes and sports people working at a competitive level. What barriers do they have to get a foot in the door?
Definitely. The biggest barrier for deaf athletes going to the Deaflympics is all down to funding. They must raise £3,500 to be able to go to Japan this year, all by themselves. There's no government funding.
Nathan Young will be one of those athletes making their way to the Deaflympics. This year will be his 2nd year. He was diagnosed with a progressive hearing loss at just 4 years old and he took up swimming aged 7. He was also playing on a hearing football team but found that more and more challenging.
Swimming was just purely me in the water, me against the clock, and it was a completely, sort of a better environment for me.
Nathan began competing in national competitions and soon after he was representing his country.
Growing from someone who's in the hearing world, finding Deaflympics is a complete new experience, new world, but it's one that I love. I absolutely love it. The Deaflympics experience. The racing is obviously the main point, but it's also these amazing new friends.
But even though he's competing at world-class events, Nathan still has to juggle training with his full-time job as an administrator for the NHS.
So my training is get up at 5:30, get training for 6, train for about an hour and a half, and then come home, work a full day, and then go back to training about 4:45 for another 2 hours of training. That's Monday to Friday, and then I'll also do a session for 2.5 hours on a Saturday morning as well. So it's a pretty full schedule.
And unlike many of his competitors from around the world, there is currently no national funding for Nathan and his Team GB teammates. So you're an elite sports person, and where do you get your funding from?
As a deaf athlete, there's money in grassroots, but there's nothing for the professional athlete. I have to rely on the amazing support of my family and my friends, and sometimes I will have to put my own money, which I'm happy to do because it's an honour to represent the country, so I'm happy to do that. But looking back and all this money that I had to raise, I raised over £20,000 for these competitions.
Nathan has been campaigning for more support for deaf athletes and is keen to raise awareness of deaf sport events. And encouraging more people to take up physical activity is a key aim of UK deaf sport. So where can people find more information about events and accessible events?
People can contact UK Deaf Sports via our website, where we can offer help and support.
One of the things I love about elite level deaf competitions is that they're not just about the sport itself. They're about breaking barriers, inspiring the next generation, and proving that deaf athletes belong on the world stage. So to all of the deaf athletes heading to Japan, Tokyo, good luck to you all. We'll be cheering you on as you go for gold.